Hello everyone and welcome to this new series at IITD OnAir, which is called OnAir with Alumni. In this series, we'll be talking to our alumni and getting to know more about their life experiences, how their journey has been at, during, and after IIT. Uh, for the first episode, we have with us Anagh, who was AIR1 JEE-Main 2013, and he also has a book coming out which is called A Plan That Actually Works, and it's basically a toolkit for people to manage their time well and basically have a plan that actually works. Anagh won several awards during his IIT time, and one of which was Best Undergraduate Student Award from CSE department. Anagh went on to join uh, Goldman Sachs for his job, and he later made a shift to become a venture capitalist. So we'll get to know more about his experiences, and he was also the House Secretary of Karakoram House and overall coordinator of AAIP as well. So there's a lot to talk about. Let me just welcome Anagh. So hi Anagh, welcome to the series.
Thank you so much for doing this, Varunesh. I'm like always a pleasure to talk to people from the institute.
Yeah. Can you just start by telling us about the book and
Sure.
what is it about? What is the motivation behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So the book got recently released. Like quite fortunate that it was released by another, like one of I would say one of the iconic IITians from IIT Delhi, Mr. Jayan Sinha. So he released the book in a public function last, like in this July. Just been a little over a month. Been doing quite well, frankly. Uh, so that has been well. Uh, the main motivation behind writing the book, Varunesh, was that I thought that JEE has been the most impactful time of my life. If we look at all the periods, if I look back on all the periods that I've spent, I think I was performing most efficiently when I was in class 11th and 12th because of the purpose and the goal I had back then. And again, it was always on my mind to write something about it, but like I thought that right after J is not the best time for it because a the maturity level is not that high, and b I did want to experience IIT first and then tell why whether if it's even worth it for people to prepare so hard for J and then get into an IIT and so on. So those things I wanted to inculcate. That's why I started writing the book after I graduated from IIT Delhi. And secondly, I didn't want to delay it much further as well because I'm pretty sure I would have started forgetting. So right now, like I can't solve a like rotational mechanics question, for instance. So I'm pretty sure a lot of things will
Yeah,
go off
yeah,
my mind, even with respect to the softer aspects of planning and my school life. So I thought this is the best time to do it, and went ahead to write it. Quite happy that I was able to finish it in time.
yeah. And it's a great news that the book has already become a bestseller in the engineering books category, I suppose. So how do you feel about the how people are receiving it? What has the experience been?
Yep. So within a month of launch, actually, it was trending as one of the top 10 bestsellers in its category. And that was a big surprise because I have not had the time to do a lot of marketing. This is also self-published, so have not had the chance backing of any large publishing house. So it was a big positive surprise. But frankly, more than the number of reviews or whatever are the stars, etc., coming, the more heartwarming thing is that the emails which I receive in the morning. These are from young students from all over the country, and they email me that like this book is something which has not just changed my preparation strategy but also my outlook towards life as such. A few of such very heartwarming comments have come,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
that was quite a pleasant surprise for me, and that is what is keeping me going and like keeping me excited about the prospects.
yeah, yeah. I suppose it's not just for people sitting for JBA. Other people might find it helpful as well.
Absolutely. So my
So
idea
yeah,
was actually
yeah,
to not focus a lot on the word JE, but actually to put forward a way of thinking for like long term, large and meaningful goals. But the example which I wanted to quote was my JE days because the JE main rank one thing and like all the attention that it deserves. That was the idea there
yeah,
to tie these two together. So directly relevant for people going for JE, but I've had a lot of readers who are like reading the books just before their GMAT exam, GRE exam, CAT, UPSC, like basically any academic exam that people are giving. Quite a few readers, no, not just from India. I have readers from US and UK as well who are reading the book, and it's not directly related to J, but then they're still able to derive value out of it. So that has been really heartwarming.
yeah, yeah. So now that we've talked about the book, let's go back to your maybe childhood days. So were you a bright student always, or was it during your 11th and 12th that you discovered that you need to study more efficiently, more
Yeah,
properly?
yeah.
And did you expect such a great rank? I mean, AIR 1 in JEE-Main and AIR 66 in JEE Advanced.
Yeah. No, so I think everyone who makes it, first of all, I think without a question, every child they start bright. But especially, I think we are lucky people who go to IIT Delhi and other such institutes. We are lucky because we are able to maintain that brightness and maintain that ingenuity and curiosity over time, and develop that potential and talent that gets translated to performance. And that's why we land at IIT. So I think just like you, just like any other one, any other person who is currently sitting in IIT or has graduated, yes, I think I had a bit of a different childhood. I was kind of bright in most of the cases that I did, but the rank, frankly, did not expect, and that is why the book does not talk about ranks a lot. I personally also don't believe in percentiles and ranks deciding someone's,
Yes,
potential
yes,
for success. And when I was starting the JEE prep in class 11, I think I was around. So my coaching institute used to do this rank prediction test and so on. So I was had joined some like national coaching institute, and they used to predict like around 4,000, 5,000 rank for me when I had joined. But
yeah,
yeah, but that did not ever hold me back. I thought this is where I currently am, but that by no means implies that I can't get a better rank. So I started working hard very, very quickly. I think I was in top 1,500, 100. And by the time I was actually giving JEE, I was quite, I thought it's quite likely that I might end up with rank one. It happened in JEE-Main, then got slipped a bit in JEE Advanced. But yeah, this is how it got built up. Again, a lot
yeah,
of it
yeah,
is luck. A lot of it is sheer planning. A lot of it is hard work. It's a mixture of different things. But that's in the past. Taking learnings from there, trying to reach more people with some of those learnings. But yeah, looking forward to newer things now.
yeah. And as for the next question, Anag, you come from Ranchi and you did not prepare from renowned places like Delhi or Kota, maybe.
Yeah.
So, like, how was your prep? Do you ever feel that you should have prepared from places could have converted to under 10 or maybe not? And you also mentioned about MSD in one of your LinkedIn posts that I saw. So, was he an inspiration to you during that time?
100% Varunesh. And I think that is where like I love exams like JEE because they act as great equalizers in the society. No matter which background, which city, whatever family you're coming from, they give you like almost almost the same platform. So there is that debate of coaching versus non-coaching, but at least the exam standard patterns, etc., are the same. And that is what I thought, that like this is a fairly level playing field. And as you said, MSD was a big inspiration. It is not just me from Ranchi. Anyone you talk to from Ranchi, I think they'll tell that MSD is a hero. And fortunately, he comes from my
Yeah,
school itself.
yeah,
So lots of stories about him by class teachers all the time. And he did it from the same grounds, from the same schools with very limited facilities. And frankly, by the time I was in class 11 back in 2011, lots of things had changed, and Ranchi had also started seeing good investment, and things were changing. So I never felt at any point that like I'm in a small town, I have not moved to say Vizag or Kota or Delhi, so it will be harder for me. I just thought, yeah, this is a level playing field, and I should get going with whatever I have.
yeah, yeah, sure. So, like you did your dual degree course in CS, and were you always sure about the branch that you were to take, or maybe IIT Delhi? Were you sure about taking IIT Delhi? And was it the street food that you have a liking for? And how did IIT Delhi shape you as an individual?
Yeah. No, no, thanks. That's a great question. And I think I'm very lucky to be from IIT Delhi because so till class 6, 7th, or maybe class 8, 9, I never even knew about IIT. So forget IIT or IIT Delhi. But when I got to know, then I started doing a bit of my own research. IIT Delhi was the campus which attracted me the most. And computer science as well, because I was doing some CS in school and my favorite subject was math. So I thought most of math applications can happen in computing. So yep, that was pretty decided that I'll do CS. IT Delhi, of course, I thought if I'll get the rank, I'll go for Delhi, but would have chosen CS over the campus. But yeah, Delhi loved it totally. there's always this debate of IIT Delhi versus IIT Bombay. I think it's not a versus
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's more about what do you expect from like after graduating. I think IIT Bombay is great in having a good coding culture. They help each other a lot. There's good academic culture as well. Some of that is there in IIT Delhi, but I think the pieces where we score probably stronger a bit is more holistic exposure, I think, from entrepreneurship side, or people who are going for different
yeah,
kinds of routes, not just sticking to their field. So I was not really sure in what way I'll be using CS, and I was more inspired by the other fact aspects of being in Delhi and being in the campus, also the location of the campus. Those are the things which propelled me to take Delhi over Bombay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Great. So Anagh, you were involved in a lot of extracurricular activities as well. You were the house secretary of Karakoram. You were the overall coordinator of AAIP, and you also still managed to score a 9+ CGPA. So, like, how did you manage all that?
Yep. No, thanks. And I think a lot of it were marginal cases uh, where, a marks here or there would have changed things, or election may one two different events would have led to something different outcome. So I do think a lot has to do with me being there at the right time and fortune favoring me. But the larger thing was never that I want to become the house secretary or I want to become the DR1 or DR2. Those things could happen because there was always a purpose behind whatever I was trying to do in IIT. And the purpose for me to study hard, or like not study hard actually, study with meaningful learning, like not just mugging up the notes and uh, trying to, just score well at the minors or majors. So if you look at my CGPA kind of report card, it's very boring to look at those things. But if you ever get a chance, so you'll see a lot of tens and a lot of eights. There is hardly any nine. And this has happened because whichever course I liked, I went deep into it. So it never came to me that I want to just score well at the exam or get away with this, get this course done. So I'll either score very well if I'm like going to the classes, I'm solving the assignments, I'm actually interested in a course, then not just a 10. I think uh, got even, like, if you look at some of the courses, I was in the top 1 2 3 in most of these courses where I got a 10. But if I'm not interested in a course, then I got then I got a 8 7 6 whatever.
Yeah. Could you tell us some of the courses that you liked a lot, maybe,
Yeah.
or any professors that you liked?
Yeah. So I think in CS, I really liked a course by Professor Subhashish Banerjee. It was a course on numerical algorithms, which goes behind it, challenges the basic assumptions you have for thinking about algorithms. It gets into the, like, absolute details of how the numbers behave with each other, what actually goes behind when you multiply two matrices, and a lot of things which get bubbled up in a black box called machine learning. It's actually not ML. It's actually linear algebra, just advanced linear algebra, which is happening behind the scenes. So Subhashish Banerjee, he went into the details of those things. Never, would never be superficial in his teaching. So I loved that course a lot. There was a course by Professor Rahul Garg, which was functional brain imaging of MRI. fMRI basically. So statistical imaging and analysis of the brain, how the brain functions. It was a very small course. Around, I think, 8-10 people had registered. So yeah, such small courses where there would be less than 20 people in the class, and the professor is very very involved. I used to love those courses, and I think that is what propelled my CGPA. So I never thought that I'm working very hard
Yeah.
for my grades. It was always that I'm enjoying it. So that was the academics part. Then when you come to the extracurriculars, again, I think it was never on my mind to become the secretary or like get an elected post. From first year itself, so I come from Kara. Uh, I'm pretty sure the culture is still good there, but at least at our time, the culture was very, very strong. Even if I meet people
Yeah.
from my hostel, even today, the first words to our mind will be Jai Kara. That's how we greet each other. So Jai Kara is
Yeah. You also led the house to win the house cup.
exactly. So that was the goal,
And that
Varunesh.
was a yeah, yeah,
That was the
yeah,
purpose. So we were a bunch of very close friends, and we had decided that our only goal for the next 3 years is going to get the best hostel trophy for Karakoram. So it had been happening that Kumaon was always winning, other hostels were getting second, third position. Those had been happening for a long time. But we wanted at least BSMA, we could not have control, but BHM is what we had targeted. And we had started planning from first year itself. A bunch of highly motivated close friends. So it was a 3-year long planning. Ye to mujhe karna hi hai. I have to get the best hostel trophy when I go to the 4th year. So that was the goal, which we
Did manage
started
to do
working on from year 1. And that is why when you go to people now with that kind of motivation, when there is nothing to hide, basically whatever you are feeling, it comes to your face, then they do not worry about not electing you. So that comes as a side goal, that you also become the secretary, you get the post and so on. But the main goal was actually to always take the hostel forward, and I think that's what worked. And uh, I would never say that I was the house secretary in that case. It was a bunch of the friends that we were working together, all of them we were acting in the house secretary capacity. That's how it got possible.
that. Yeah. So slight detour from that. You were an exchange student at University of British Columbia, and you did your intern at GS, and you joined GS for your placements as well.
Yeah,
So, what was the experience at these two places, and
sure.
any tips for the upcoming batch for exchange or maybe intern or maybe placement?
Sure. So very different. These two things are very different. So let me take them one by one. First would be the exchange program. I personally
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
Varunesh, that the student exchange program in IITD is one of the best things that one can get into. Uh, and I think that has a major role uh, to play, at least in my case, for totally transforming my personality. So it did not change a lot with respect to my academics. I did not discover new interest or anything of that sort there. What I actually got from the exchange program was a newfound confidence, because you are propelled into an entirely new country. Forget new country, I had not even lived in like another city or any other place other than like my parents' house and the safe environment, I would say, of IT hostels. So you get propelled into that
yeah,
kind of environment, you make new friends, you meet new professors, there's an entirely different academic setting. So, and I think that is one of the best things that can happen at that age, especially for someone like me who was not. So I have always been confident in my life, but I was not very outspoken earlier. And I was not very nuanced in my communication, I would say. Even if I will speak, there's not a lot. There was not a lot of thought behind it. But those things changed since like when I went to Canada and I started participating in those group discussions, class discussions. I had to think before speaking. I had to make myself more measured, make myself more presentable. So by the time I had come back, so that kind of personality was very different. And you'll see people who go on exchange, a lot of times the motivation is just to go out and travel the country and enjoy. I think definitely that is worth doing.
mhm,
Of course, it's a big part of the exchange program. But my goal of going was very different. That's why even after going on exchange, and I knew that the CGPA is not going to count, but I would still go and sit on the first seat. I'll still go and talk to the professors. I'll still go and do very well in the courses. I tried to do very well in the courses, make all the assignments and everything, because I wanted to get the full experience. I did not want to, make it a vacation. So yeah, that
mhm.
helped me a lot, I would say. And again, I use at one point you mentioned advice for younger students. I would say anyone in IT who's applying for those programs, they should realize that there's a lot to be learned from exchange programs. It's not just ghumna firna masti karna. You can do a lot of things. And the second piece, I think Varunesh, was about
Uh,
internships,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yep. So because I was a dual degree student, I had the chance to intern at multiple places. So again, the thought was, and this was a larger theme, if you look at it in hindsight, that I want to gain the best of all experiences in IT. It's not that I had not yet decided what I want to do as such. So what I thought the more optimal way is to figure out what are the different options available. So after my second year, I actually went on to intern in a startup. It was housing.com, who
Mhm.
was making all the news back then in 2015. Hiranandani Gardens in Bombay, where this was launched, it was touted as the new Silicon Valley of India.
Yeah.
So lots of excitement. I also got attracted to it when there as an intern. So got a bit of exposure to the startup ecosystem.
Mhm.
In third year, unfortunately, at that time, I'm not sure what the situation is right now. We did not have a lot of options for dual degree students. So very few companies that I could apply to. One of them seemed good to me. It was an American Express internship because it was combining statistics, analytics, finance with computer science knowledge. And I thought that is where I like more rather than a pure software engineering role. So I went ahead with that. Then right after it, I started working part time for a firm called TechQuant, which is an like alpha research firm which invests in statistical arbitrage strategies. It's based out of Connecticut, but they hire part time students from India for their job. So I also worked there for, I would say, around 6 months, and so collected that experience. Finally, when fourth year came, I decided to apply to just two places. I had decided by then that I want to focus on finance because I started liking it. I thought there's a lot of math that goes behind it. It's not just coding, and that is what I wanted to do. I applied to only two places. Fortunately, got both of them. Decided GS because GS had an international exposure component part of the program. So I wanted to work cross-functionally, which is what I got. I worked a bit cross-functionally across New York and Bangalore when I joined GS, and I got an exposure to corporate finance, quantitative strategies, and so on. So I spent around 1.5 years at GS. But yeah, this whole notion of whether I want to GS or not, that got building in second year itself. When I was experimenting, iterating, tried 3-4 different things, and finally landed at a place which I really wanted to.
Yeah. So you basically, try to plan things beforehand, right?
Yep. Some people say it's a boring way to live out life, but it just works for me. So that's what I try to do.
So Anagh, you won the Best All-Rounder Undergraduate Student Award and several other awards as well. But there's a lot that goes behind, these awards and all the what people see and what you actually do. So were there times at IIT when you felt that things weren't going according to you? Maybe you made some bad decisions. How did you overcome those, or what did it change?
Many times. And one of those situations, I think, which in hindsight was quite important, I would say, was, I think, in my time in my second semester of second year, so in the fourth semester. So till the third semester, I was quite into like academics, like I'm still into, but usko kehte hain na, I think Maggu, basically what people call in IT. So I was a Maggu. I still am. I'm a proud Maggu. I would say a proud nerd. I love studying. I love learning new things. So why not? But I think I was the bad or the wrong kind of Maggu when it came to that particular time in second year. Because till third year I was getting very, very good grades. Things were going well. I was enjoying classes and frankly enjoying the results of all those minors.
Third semester.
Till third semester.
Yeah.
So that starts giving you validation, right? The whole IIT system, the way it is designed to give grades and so on. So I was enjoying that. But in fourth year, fourth semester, things started going a bit downhill after the first two minors. If you would have extrapolated the marks, I think I was getting somewhere around a 7-pointer. And that got a massive hit on my ego, which I had inadvertently developed over the last 3 semesters. Whichever course I take, I'm going to get the best marks out of it. And that is where I started feeling a bit down. And then I realized I realized at that point that I'm doing it exactly the wrong way. I should not benchmark my learnings with respect to the grades. So what I did was, again, this did not happen overnight. And I still think I look for validation when it comes to competitions. I look for some standardized measure to get my outcome. But the hunger for that has reduced a bit. And the focus on that has reduced, I would say. So I focused only on the subjects I liked. I picked up the subjects which I really liked from that semester. I started working on them from scratch and ended up with 10 pointers and very good marks in those particular subjects and not very great marks in the other ones. But I was not feeling sad about it anymore. I think that was a major transformation, to stop thinking about grades, start enjoying the concept, and stop thinking that if you're not a 9-pointer, not a 9.5 pointer, then you did not learn it. So at that point, I stopped thinking. Quite fortunate that I never got, like, I always managed to get 9 pointers beyond that. But their mindset was totally different. I was never now chasing the grades. I was never chasing any marks or anything. In fact, I would get a copy. I would get a mark sheet. You'll never see me going to the professor and asking, please increase 2 marks, 3 marks, or whatever. That this was not checked correctly. So that mindset had totally changed after that second year,
Yeah,
second semester, and I think that was quite important. To take ego hits once in a while, that is very important.
yeah. And that was the last question related to college.
Yeah,
Let's move on to your professional life now. So,
perfect.
could
Sure.
you tell us how was your, 1 year, I think, at GS, and what made you decide to quit
Yeah.
that?
So about a year and a half, yes, close to that. I would say, it was a well thought decision to get into GS. So no regrets there. Of whatever the time I spent, around 17, 18 months, they went well, I would say. And the decision was that I want to stick to math and core algorithms and quant rather than get into pure coding. And that is pretty much what I got in GS. But the other thing which started hitting me after, around 10, 12 months, or probably just after the end of 1 year anniversary in GS, was that there's so much excitement going on in the outside world in the startup ecosystem. There's just so much happening. I just thought that in my big like glass offices, there are thousands of people like sitting in a corporate world, where whereas you see people out on the roads building something new for India. I think that is all. I thought that for me it's going to be a sin if I sit in the corporates in my early 20s. So I thought that.
Yeah,
So my romantic relationship continues to stay with math and coding and quant and so on. But my aspiration then I thought is getting divergent from it. So I thought that if I if I have to go there out on the streets and build something, I need to develop some business skills as well. And I want to see, become a part of the new stories which are being written out there. And these are not being written in the multinational offices. These are being written by brave founders.
yeah,
Lot of them from IT Delhi itself, and people taking on new challenges. So then I thought, Varunesh, that either I could go work with one of the great founders and build out a company, and the other side, which was a bit smaller and I had less exposure to at that point, was the venture capital world. The
mhm,
second one, the more I thought about it, the more tilted I got towards it. And that was again because of my 2-3 year kind of a goal which I made for myself, that I want to first figure out and absorb what's happening on the ground. So basically get a pulse of everything, all the sectors, whatever is going on, how are startups built, how people think about it, how investors think about it, customers think about it, stakeholders, how are they involved, and so on. And I thought the
mhm.
fastest way to do that could be through a venture capital role. That's why I ended up doing it. Again, at this point of time, I don't think this is a long-term career option. As I said, I do want to build out something on my own. There are different ways to land at the same thing. Some people say the best thing is to just leave your job, quit one day, and start building. Some people say work with like with a mentor who can do it. Some people say go get deep domain expertise. Only after 15 years you'll have the knowledge to do it. But I am
Yeah.
taking the
Everybody
breadth
has
first
their
kind
own
of approach
ideas.
to it. I don't know if it work or not. It's a work in progress. It's an experiment. But my experiment is basically absorb a lot of different things and then pick one. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do,
yeah.
Varunesh.
And how has the experience been as a VC? Any
Oh, yep.
interesting startups that you're working on?
Yep, yep. Absolutely brilliant, Varunesh. I think
Mhm.
it's my how many? Around ninth month in the role now. I work for a purely so again when I was applying to VC also lots of my peers and lot people who I were talking to, they told me about growth stage funding and private equity as well. So the difference between pure early stage VC and growth stage VC or private equity is that they invest a bit in the mature companies which have already
Mhm.
have some traction, which are going ahead in a certain direction. But when you're investing at the stage at which I invest at, which is purely seed and series A, company doesn't, in a lot of cases there's only an MVP in there, like there's a basic product, very few customers, sometimes there's not even that, it's just an idea on the paper. So how do you evaluate that? How do you bring a company from that 0 to 1, basically in Peter Thiel's word? That is what excited me the most. So I work for a purely early stage company based out of Bangalore. It's called Stellaris Venture Partners. We do very, very early stage checks in seed and series A. it's a smallish fund, I would say. Like in the VC world, it's fairly small compared to its peers. It's a 100 million fund. We do small investments, again less than 3 million, 0.5 to 3 million is what we do. But that is what I enjoy the most as well. I figured that writing those small early checks for companies where the idea is very, very nascent. And I'm covering, like I'm working in a sector agnostic fashion. So I don't have a sector assigned to me because it's a very small team. It's 7 people only. And 4 of them are from IITD. uh, uh, Coincidentally or otherwise, I don't know. But yeah, 4 of them are from IITD. Right from someone is from the early 90s, someone is from the late 90s, and there's one from 2008, and then one myself. So generations of IITians there. It's a lot of fun in a small team, and it's been, I would say, exactly what I expected, that I would get to meet a lot of interesting people. Scores and scores of interesting startups is what I'll immerse myself in, and that's what's going on.
Yeah. And how do you look at entrepreneurship? Like, how is it in India? What is the ecosystem like?
Sure.
How do you look at it?
Sure. No, I think it's taking an interesting turn with every passing day. So if you look at all the active startup ecosystems in the world, I think India will definitely come in the league of the US, China, and Israel. I think, and India. I think these 4 are probably the most active and hottest, most interesting, at least in my opinion, startup ecosystems in the world. So India is right there at the top when it comes to, like, at least the activity levels or hype, or the basically people's openness which has started coming up now. And things are very different from what it was when I had joined IIT. In fact, when I was in 2015 16, I think there was a peak. It got down a bit in 17 18, but then it has again picked up the amount of funding, rounds of funding, whatever you look at, whichever way you look at. And the more interesting part there is a lot of people who got into the startup ecosystem around 2009, 2010, 2011, that point of time, they are now coming back with new ideas. So a lot of people who you can look up to for mentorship. So these are the second time founders who have done it before. And at the same time, you have a huge influx of people coming back from the Silicon Valley to India. And with them, they are bringing a vast, treasure of knowledge, treasure of building products, building leading growth teams, and leading absolutely world-class technology. So all these factors combined, I think this whole startup ecosystem, at least in my viewpoint, is almost at an inflection point. And there is good capital available as well. More funds are flowing in. And there are more people at every point in the journey to help you out. So that ecosystem has matured. It will keep on maturing. I think for the next 10 years, we'll still be in the young kind of stage. But talk of India 2030, and I would not be surprised if we are actually comparable to the Valley in terms of at least some of the sectors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Any suggestions to people who are starting out in the startup space? I think it could be very daunting for people to start up. So yeah, any suggestions to them? Any ideas?
Sure. So I have never been a founder myself, and I tell this to every company that I meet, that please don't take my advice as such, because unless you have built something from ground up, I think you should not be qualified enough to give that kind of an advice. So I try to stay away from it. But as someone working on the investing side, the view that I get can also be valuable in certain situations. And the view that I get is meeting multiple companies working on similar ideas. And the thing that actually ends up differentiating these companies from each other is almost never the idea, is almost never the tech, it's almost always the people. So what is the vision that the founder has? So forming that out is very important. This will sound philosophical, but I think it's very, very important before you start up. So your goal should be very clear. Why do you want to start up? And then all the answers, they start coming in. So the one thing which I have seen, like one common mistake that people do is they will come up with a fantastic idea, but then they start benchmarking their success of the company or progress of the company against the amount of funding raised. But then again, we have to realize how VC math works. So not every business in the world is a VC investable business. Let's say if I go out and create another kulfi shop in SDA market, that could be a fantastic business, but that might not be the best opportunity for a VC to invest in, because VC math typically works in that I'll invest in 20, 30 companies and one or two of them will end up becoming billion-dollar companies. I don't care even if other companies go bankrupt. So they're not looking for profitable exits immediately or building, 30 different good, healthy companies. They are looking for those one or two outliers. So one Google, one Flipkart, one Facebook is what we are looking for.
Yeah.
And this philosophy that needs to align with the founder. I think that is very important. If you are creating a business which will be linear in growth and you are actually finding yourself attached to it, please go ahead and start it. But do not expect this kind of capital to come into it, and therefore do not get disheartened if that funding doesn't happen for that kind of a company, because it could be a profitable 10 crore, 50 crore, 100 crore company, but it's not a good enough outcome, like large enough outcome for a VC to invest in. If you're creating a 10,000 crore company, 20,000 crore company, that is the vision at some point. Again, this answer need not be very clear, but at least if you're targeting a large market and you're at least looking at some kind of non-linearity to kick into the business, so it's not going to be a straight line. At some point, you do imagine it going exponential. That is where VCs can help you. So that one realization is important. The second could be that what kind of a team do you want to hire? So we coming from tech backgrounds, I think it's a great idea for us to stick to, technology or technology enabled businesses, because we can leverage some kind of competitive advantage there, and that also helps some non-linearity kick in. So you should try to figure out what is the tech, what is the differentiating, or even if it's not tech but some other differentiator for which you bring some competitive advantage, that comes into the picture. And questions like this, they start getting answered on their own once you decide that what do you want to create. So yep, that's a long answer, but that's typically how I think about
I
it.
know that it sums up everything very properly. Okay. So as we all know, this time is not very pleasant for all of us, especially the final year students or maybe the third year students who are starting out with the professional life. So what are your maybe suggestions to them, and especially how to take care of your mental health, or maybe focus more on studies, and manage all these things together. So what is your idea about that?
Yep. So again, Varunesh, I won't claim to be an expert in this. I'm just pretty much, I would say, only 2-3 years seniors to most people listening to this video. So I can't claim that whatever techniques I suggest is going to work for them. But at least some of the things which I have been watching, which I really liked, one of them was Barack Obama's video. He was asked a similar question for people graduating from high school. And I loved his answer that the world actually belongs to people, young people who are ready to take on challenges head on. So the future will actually belong to them. So this whole 2020 thing, this is not the first time it's happening. It happened in 2008 as well. It happened earlier in different crises. But people who graduate from such batches, these are a bit special in the sense that you graduate in a world of uncertainty. It's full of, though no one really knows what 2021 is going to look like, how things will come back to normal, what will take off, what will shut down. And things are starting to get better, but it was quite bad, frankly, in May and June as well. But still, like, we don't really know what's going to happen. And I think that is what real life is. Mostly, if you're doing anything of worth, you will always have uncertainty in life. So it's almost, I would say, it's an opportunity for 2020 students who are graduating, who are, like, let's say, completing their high school or completing their college and so on. It's a great opportunity to forge yourself in this fire, I would say. And then the future crisis might look smaller. So it's more about navigating this crisis, being healthy physically and mentally, rather than doing something very extraordinary. I think it's more about holding your shit together. And it's a time for introspection. Again, I can't comment on it, give feedback, because I've never been through it, so I won't claim to be an expert. But I have also been watching those videos, reading those stories, and the stories that actually inspire me are the stories in which you start from something at the bottom or something full of uncertainties around you, but you end up and you emerge very strong out of it. And so that process of emerging strong, that gets accelerated if you graduate or if you enter the world in such situations. So I think people of this batch will be much more mature than people of 2019 or 2021 batch at a similar time period going forward. But let's see.
Sure. Coming back to your book, I think we would all like to read that book. And talking about the book, talking about books, I think you must be a good, very avid reader. So any books that you would like to suggest to people?
Sure.
Any, is some of your favorite books, maybe?
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
was the special thing about that?
Yeah, I'll confess actually on this platform that I don't read a lot of books. So, please
Okay,
don't tell
okay,
all my readers because my credibility as an author might go down. But frankly, I don't read a lot of books. What I like reading more, Varun, by books I mean like trade books, like fiction,
hmm,
non-fiction. I read more of theory books. So I like to get into the depth of whatever I try to do. So I keep myself occupied with abstract algebra or linear algebra. I really like that. Or I keep reading. I've started a bit of quantum computing as well, and I've read probability. I've read bit of machine learning and statistical learning as well. So there I try to go into the depth using books. So I think that takes 80-90% of my time. But in the rest of the time, I try to read books which are directly applicable to me. One of the books which is directly applicable for startup ecosystem and people like looking to be a founder, working in a startup or investing in startups is a book called Zero to One by Peter Thiel. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that
yeah,
is my favorite book on the whole scene of starting up. So the 0 to 1 is basically you are at zero right now, the idea doesn't exist, but you bring it to one.
hmm,
So that bulb starts blinking and it's actually something new which has come to the world. And he has written it beautifully. So I do recommend it to everyone who has at any point thought of starting up.
yeah. I think that's all, Anag. Thanks a lot for this interaction. I think the viewers and me myself, I think would surely benefit from this interaction. And for our viewers, you could reach Anag on his LinkedIn profile or maybe or on his other social media links. Those will be in the description. And the book's link will also be in the description if you want to read that. So you can read that as well. We'll be back very soon with another video in the series very soon. So stay tuned. Uh, thanks, Anag, for this interaction. Yeah,
Thank you
it
so
was
much,
really great
Varunesh.
talking to you.
And I look
Yeah,
forward. So I think IT Delhi is always in my heart. Look forward to keep meeting juniors, seniors, and wonderful people such as yourself from the institute. Thanks again.
yeah. Thanks.